Do you ever feel like you're being watched? That strange prickling at the back of your neck? A chill that runs down your spine for no reason? But what if I told you this happens every time you sit down for dinner? That something or someone is feeding off your energy during that most sacred time of day. Padre Pio knew this. He had a specific method to reveal what was happening. A method so simple, you'll question why no one ever taught you before. My name doesn't matter, but what I'm about to share with you changed the lives of thousands of families. Families just like yours, who thought they were safe inside their own homes, who believed evil lurked only outside. They were wrong. Padre Pio used to say something that sent chills down the spines of even the most devout. He said the dinner table is the family altar, and every altar can be profaned. The question isn't if this will happen. The question is whether you'll notice when it does. Have you ever noticed how some meals leave you utterly exhausted? How sometimes the food seems to lose its flavor for no reason? How arguments always seem to start at dinner time? It's no coincidence. There's an intelligence behind it. A presence that chooses the exact moment your family is gathered. Vulnerable. Off guard. Padre Pio developed 3 infallible signs to detect this presence. 3 signs your family is already manifesting, but you don't know how to interpret yet. He discovered the first sign in a home in San Giovanni Rotondo. A family who had been coming for months asking for prayers. The father came home angry for no reason. The mother lost her appetite every night. The children fought during meals. But there was something more specific that Padre Pio noticed immediately. They had the habit of dining at the same time every night, 7 o'clock, religiously. But at 7:15, without exception, someone in the family would start an argument. Always. As if an invisible timer were controlling their emotions. Padre Pio visited the house just once. He sat at the table with them. He observed, and after 15 minutes, he stood up and whispered something in the father's ear. The man turned pale. He looked at the empty chair next to his wife, the chair that no one used, but that was always pulled up to the table. A chair they didn't even remember placing there. Do you know what Padre Pio's first question was? Do you feel cold during dinner, even in the summer? The answer was a haunted yes, because they did feel it, all of them. But they had never connected the dots. The cold always started on the left side of the table, exactly where the empty chair was, and it spread like a wave of ice over the entire family. Then Padre Pio asked a second question that left them even more disturbed. Does anyone here dream of a person whose face they cannot see? The silence that followed was the answer. They all dreamed of this figure. They all felt its presence, but no one had dared to mention it. The cold doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. From the presence that feeds on the warmth of your family, on the love you share, on the vital energy that circulates during that moment of union. Padre Pio called it the unseen presence, and he was right. Parasites don't kill the host immediately. They drain it slowly. They suck until there's nothing left. The second sign is even more disturbing. Padre Pio noticed that in infested homes, there was always a family member who ate less than the others. Always, without exception, as if something were stealing their hunger, their desire to participate, their connection to the most sacred family moment. But it wasn't just a lack of appetite. It was something more specific. This person would start eating normally, but after a few bites, they would stop. They would stare intently at a point on the table, push the food around on their plate, invent excuses to leave. I'm not hungry. I ate earlier. I'm on a diet. Always a different excuse, but always the same reaction. Padre Pio discovered the reason. This person was being used as a channel by the negative presence. It was through them that the entity fed on the family's energy. That's why they lost their physical appetite. The hunger was being satisfied by another means, by a form of spiritual parasitism that they didn't even realize was happening. In more advanced cases, Padre Pio noticed that this person began to develop an aversion not only to food, but to their own family. They preferred to eat alone, avoided mealtimes, found reasons not to be home at dinner time, as if something inside them rejected family unity. The third sign is the cruelest. Padre Pio realized that these presences attack children first, because they are more sensitive, more open, more innocent, and especially because they haven't yet built the psychological defenses that adults develop. But there are specific signs that Padre Pio learned to recognize. Children who start talking to themselves during meals, whispering to someone that the adults don't see, laughing at jokes that no one told, answering questions that no one asked. Even more disturbing, children who begin to negotiate with invisible presences. If I eat this, will you go away? If I don't tell mommy, will you leave me alone? Why do you only appear when we're all together? Phrases that chill the blood of any parent. Padre Pio documented another pattern. Children who begin to draw shadowy figures during or immediately after meals. Always dark drawings. Always faceless figures or figures with distorted faces. Always seated at the table with the family. When questioned about the drawings, they say things like, "It's the man who dines with us," or "It's the lady who sits behind Daddy's chair." He told of a 6-year-old girl who stopped smiling during meals. Her parents thought it was a phase, a childish tantrum, until one day the girl said something that chilled her mother's heart. "Why does that man sit next to me every time we eat? And why is he always hungry, but never eats anything?" The mother looked next to her daughter. There was no one there. The chair was empty, empty. But when she touched the seat, it was ice cold, frozen solid, in the middle of a Roman summer. Padre Pio knew time was running out for this family. He knew that if he didn't act quickly, what started as discomfort would become something much worse. Illness, separation, tragedy. It was then that he taught the ritual of holy water at the table. But not the ritual you know, not the simple sprinkling that every Catholic has learned. Something much more specific, much more powerful. He told the family, "The table is your domestic altar, and altars need to be consecrated not once, but constantly, because evil does not rest. It doesn't take vacations. It doesn't sleep." The first thing Padre Pio taught was about positioning. The holy water can't just be placed anywhere on the dinner table. It needs to be exactly at the geometric center, the point where all the family's energies converge, the invisible heart of family unity. But how do you find this precise center? Padre Pio taught a practical method. Take a string or piece of yarn, measure the table from one end to the other, its length, divide by 2. Mark the midpoint. Then measure the width from side to side. Divide by 2. The point where the 2 lines intersect. That's where the water must go. Always. And it can't be just any container. It needs to be transparent. Glass or crystal. Never plastic, never metal, never wood. Padre Pio explained that opaque materials block spiritual energy. The water needs to interact freely with the environment. It needs to breathe spiritually. The size matters too. Not too large, dominating the table. Not too small, going unnoticed. A common drinking glass, a small vase, a simple goblet, enough to hold approximately 200 milliliters of holy water. He took a small, clear glass container, filled it with holy water, and said something no one expected. You'll see when it works. The water will tell you. It will speak to you through signs you cannot ignore. How will the water tell them? The parents exchanged confused glances. Padre Pio smiled. That smile he had when he knew something others didn't? Observe the water for a week. Every day, before you sit down to eat, look at it. On the third day, you'll notice the first change. The water will appear cloudy, even though it's new. This means it's absorbing what shouldn't be there. And it happened exactly as he said. On the third day, the crystal clear water was strangely opaque, as if something had mixed into it overnight. The family was impressed, but Padre Pio wasn't finished. When the water turns cloudy, don't throw it away. Take it outside your home. Pour it onto consecrated ground. And most importantly, give thanks, because it did its job. It absorbed what could have absorbed you. The father asked if this was normal, if other families experienced the same thing. Padre Pio looked into his eyes with a seriousness that pierced his heart. Every family goes through this. The difference is that few know how to protect themselves. That night, for the first time in months, they dined in peace. The children laughed. The mother finished her plate. The father came home smiling. The empty chair remained, but something had changed. It no longer seemed occupied. But Padre Pio knew this was only the beginning. The holy water at the center of the table was the first line of defense. There were other techniques, other secrets, other ways to ensure their family was truly protected. He taught them about sacred times, about the words to be spoken before the first bite, about what to do when the holy water wasn't enough, about how to recognize when evil was trying to return. Do you want to know these techniques? You need to know, because while we speak, your family may be being watched, studied, chosen. Padre Pio used to say that the devil is patient. He doesn't attack all at once. He settles in slowly, like an unwanted guest who becomes increasingly comfortable, until one day you realize he's not a guest anymore. He's the owner of the house. But he also said there's a force more powerful than any evil. A force within reach of every family. A force that can be activated with something as simple as a glass of water and a sincere prayer. The family in San Giovanni Rotondo never had problems again. The girl smiled again. The parents looked at each other with affection again. Meals became moments of unity, not tension. And it all started with a simple realization. Evil hides where we least expect it. But divine protection can be where we need it most. Are you beginning to understand why Padre Pio insisted so much on home protection? Why he said the true spiritual battle takes place inside the home, not in church? Because it's at home that we let our guard down. It's at home that we are most vulnerable. It's at home that evil finds the doors open. But it's also at home that we can create the most powerful sanctuary. The place where no negative force can enter. The place where your family is truly safe. Padre Pio developed a complete system of home protection, a system he tested in hundreds of homes, a system that never failed, not once. Do you want to learn this system? Do you want to know how to transform your home into an impenetrable sanctuary? How to ensure that when you sit down to dinner, only love and gratitude are present at the table? Then you need to understand one fundamental thing. The holy water on the table is not a charm. It's not superstition. It's a spiritual weapon. And like every weapon, it needs to be used with knowledge, with respect, and with absolute faith. Padre Pio taught that there are 3 types of holy water for home protection. Most people only know one. The other 2 are secrets he shared only with families in real danger. Families like yours may be right now. The first type is common holy water, consecrated by any priest, effective against minor presences, against residual energies, against evil that hasn't yet established itself. You can get this water at any church. Just bring a clean container and ask the priest. It lasts about a week before losing its spiritual potency. The second type is holy water blessed on a religious feast day, consecrated during moments of intense collective prayer: Christmas, Easter, Pentecost, Feast of Our Lady. Days when the entire Catholic community is in a heightened state of prayer and devotion. This water absorbs the collective spiritual energy. It becomes more powerful, more effective against more established presences, against energies that have already targeted your family. This water can last up to a month, maintaining its maximum potency. The third type, this Padre Pio, reserved for the most serious cases. For families who are losing the battle. For homes where evil had already taken deep root. He blessed this water himself. But it wasn't a simple process. Padre Pio fasted for 3 days before consecrating this water. He spent entire nights in prayer. He offered personal sufferings to increase the spiritual potency of the blessing. He used natural spring water, never treated water, never tap water. Pure water, collected from a sacred or blessed place. And the consecration ritual lasted for hours. It included prayers in Latin, the imposition of hands marked by the stigmata, the invocation of specific angels and saints. The result was water of extraordinary spiritual power. This water didn't just protect, it expelled, it cleansed, it restored. A single drop of this water was enough to purify an entire home. But Padre Pio only granted it in extreme cases, when lives were in real danger, when entire families were being destroyed by supernatural forces. How do you know which kind you need? Padre Pio taught a simple test, a test any family can perform, a test that will reveal exactly the level of protection your home requires. Take an ordinary glass of water, place it in the center of your dinner table before lunch. Observe it for 3 consecutive days. At the end of those 3 days, you will know everything you need to know about the spiritual state of your home. If the water remains crystal clear, you're lucky. Your home is clean. Ordinary holy water will suffice. Keep it as a prevention, as a shield against future attacks. If the water becomes slightly cloudy, beware. Something is approaching. Something is testing your defenses. It's time to intensify protection. It's time for holy water consecrated during a religious feast. But if the water turns dark, if it develops a strange odor, if it feels viscous to the touch, then you have a serious problem. A very serious problem. And you need specialized help. You need the third type of holy water. You need a priest who understands spiritual warfare. Padre Pio saved a family using this test. A family from Bologna who had been tormented for 2 years. The father had lost his job for no reason. The mother was ill without a diagnosis. The children had constant nightmares. They sought doctors, psychologists, therapists. Nothing worked. That's when someone suggested they write to Padre Pio. They thought it was absurd. How could a friar in southern Italy help a family in the north? But they were desperate. They wrote the letter. They described the symptoms. They asked for help. The reply came 2 weeks later. A short letter, just 3 lines. Perform the water test. If it turns dark, come see me. Bring the children. They performed the test. On the 2nd day, the water began to darken. On the 3rd, it was black as coal, and it exhaled an odor that made their stomachs churn. The family packed their things and traveled 800 kilometers to find Padre Pio. He received them as if he had known them for years. He looked into each of their eyes. He embraced the children, and he simply said, "You took a long time to come, but you arrived in time." What happened in that encounter, they never publicly revealed. But they returned home, transformed. The father got a better job. The mother recovered her health. The children returned to sleeping peacefully. And most importantly, they learned to protect themselves. They learned the secrets that Padre Pio had discovered over decades, dealing with similar cases. They learned that divine protection is not automatic. It needs to be activated. It needs to be maintained. It needs to be renewed. Are you understanding why this is so important? Why Padre Pio dedicated so much time to teaching home protection? Because the family is the preferred target of evil. The family is where we are most vulnerable. The family is where we can be destroyed from within. But it's also where we can be most powerful, most protected, most blessed. When a family is truly united under divine protection, it becomes invincible, indestructible, impenetrable. Padre Pio knew this. That's why he created the complete system of family protection. That's why he taught not only how to detect danger, but how to combat it. That's why he revealed secrets that could change the spiritual reality of millions of homes. Do you want to know these secrets? Do you want to learn how Padre Pio transformed tormented homes into sanctuaries of peace? How he taught desperate families to become spiritual warriors? Then take a deep breath, because what I'm about to reveal has changed the lives of thousands of families, and it can change yours too. But first, I need to tell you about a case that Padre Pio never forgot. A case that taught him that sometimes holy water is not enough. It was a family from Naples, 5 people. Devout parents, 3 young children. The house was blessed. They prayed before meals. They had sacred images in every room. They did everything right, or at least they thought they did. But something was wrong, very wrong. The children began to have simultaneous nightmares. Always the same dream. A tall, thin man sitting at the dinner table, eating their food, smiling with very white teeth, very sharp teeth. The parents didn't believe it at first. Childhood nightmare, imagination, until they themselves began to feel it. A constant presence during meals. Invisible eyes watching every bite. Muffled laughter when they blessed the food. They sought Padre Pio in desperation. He listened to the account in silence. He closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, there was a deep sadness there. "You have been chosen," he said, "and whoever chose you won't give up easily." It was then that Padre Pio revealed the truth about home protection, the truth that few saints knew, the truth he had learned in the most difficult way possible. Evil doesn't attack empty houses. It attacks houses full of love, because it feeds on love. It draws its strength from family unity. It builds its power from happiness. That's why happy families are preferred targets. That's why harmonious homes attract its attention. That's why you need to protect yourself exactly when you least expect to be attacked. Padre Pio taught that Neapolitan family the complete method of home protection. The method he had developed over 50 years, dealing with impossible cases. The method that never failed, not once. First, the holy water on the table is just the beginning. It's the sentinel, the alarm. But for complete protection, you need much more. You need to transform your entire home into a sanctuary, every room into a chapel, every moment into a prayer. Padre Pio taught about the strategic points of the house, points where negative energies concentrate, points where they enter, points where they multiply, points where they hide. The first strategic point is obvious: the front door. All the energy that enters the house passes through there. But it's not enough to bless the door. It's not enough to place a crucifix. You need to create an invisible barrier. A barrier that filters what can enter and what must stay outside. Padre Pio taught a specific ritual for the front door. Every Sunday, upon returning from Mass, the family should stop at the threshold. The father should wet his index finger in holy water and draw an invisible cross in the air, exactly in the center of the door. While doing so, he should repeat 3 times, "This house belongs to God. Nothing that is not of God can enter here." Seems simple? Padre Pio said that God's most powerful weapons are always simple, always accessible, always within reach of any family, regardless of culture or financial status. The second strategic point is mirrors, especially bedroom mirrors. Padre Pio discovered that mirrors function as portals, as windows between dimensions, and what can look through a window can also cross it. He never recommended breaking mirrors. That could worsen the situation. Instead, he taught how to seal them spiritually, with holy water and a specific prayer. Every Friday, before bed, dampen a cloth with holy water and clean each mirror in the home. While cleaning, repeat, "May only good be reflected here. May only light pass through this portal." The family from Naples did this religiously. In the second week, the children stopped having nightmares. In the third, the parents felt peace again during meals. In the fourth, the whole house felt different, lighter, brighter, more sacred. But Padre Pio didn't stop there. He knew that passive protection wasn't enough. Active protection was needed. A counterattack was necessary. Complete spiritual dominion over the family space had to be established. That's why he taught the third element, territorial prayer. A prayer that marks the home as divine property. A prayer that establishes invisible boundaries that no negative force can cross. A prayer that needs to be said by the whole family, together, once a week. The territorial prayer should be done in the living room. Everyone standing, forming a circle. The father holds the holy water. The mother holds a crucifix. The children hold hands. And together they declare, "Lord, This house is yours. These people are yours. This family is yours. May nothing that does not come from you find a place here. May nothing that is not yours remain here. May nothing that does not glorify you happen here. Then, each family member walks through the house, goes to each room, makes the sign of the cross on each door, repeats the prayer, reclaims that space for God, marks spiritual territory. Padre Pio said this is war, spiritual warfare, and every war has contested territory. If you don't mark your territory, someone else will. If you don't claim your home for God, someone will claim it for evil. The Naples family never had problems again, but Padre Pio knew that protection isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing process, constant vigilance, weekly renewal. That's why he created the Family Protection Calendar, a system that ensures that no aspect of spiritual security is neglected. A system that transforms protection into habit, into a lifestyle, into second nature. Monday, renew the holy water on the dinner table. Observe if it's cloudy. If it is, change it immediately. Give thanks for the protection received. Padre Pio taught a specific prayer for Mondays. Lord, may this week find our home more protected than the last. When changing the water, pour the old water onto consecrated ground. Never down the drain or toilet. Tuesday, check the mirrors. Clean with holy water if necessary. Pay attention if any reflect strange images or inexplicable shadows. Padre Pio taught specific signs. Mirrors that fog up without steam, reflections that appear slightly distorted, or the feeling that someone is looking through the mirror. If you notice any anomaly, clean immediately with a cloth soaked in holy water. Wednesday, open all the windows. Let the air circulate for at least 30 minutes. Burn incense in each room. Allow stagnant energies to dissipate. Padre Pio recommended frankincense or myrrh incense, never artificial scents. Start with the most used room in the house, and always end with the kitchen where the family eats. Thursday, check the houseplants. Plants wilt in the presence of negative energies. If any are dying for no reason, investigate that room more thoroughly. Padre Pio noted that certain plants are more sensitive: ferns, violets, and basil. If these specific plants die without apparent cause, it's a sign of intense negative spiritual activity in that location. Friday, complete spiritual cleansing of the mirrors. Complete ritual with holy water and specific prayer. Padre Pio taught the prayer, "May only the light of God be reflected in this portal. May only good pass through this passage." Repeat 3 times on each mirror, always cleaning in circular motions, clockwise. Saturday, preparation for Sunday. Separate the new holy water. Check for crucifixes in all the main rooms. Prepare the family's hearts for the holy day. Padre Pio suggested that Saturdays be days of partial fasting, a simpler meal to increase the family's spiritual sensitivity. Sunday, complete territorial prayer, renewal of all protections, marking of spiritual territory. This is the most important day of the calendar. The prayer should be done, preferably after returning from Mass, when the family is in a heightened spiritual state. Padre Pio tested this system on hundreds of families, perfected every detail, adjusted every timing, and discovered something extraordinary. Families who follow this calendar not only protect themselves from evil, they become sources of good. They radiate peace. They attract blessings. They transform themselves into living sanctuaries. But he also discovered something disturbing. he discovered that there are homes where this doesn't work immediately. Homes where evil is so established that it resists basic measures. Homes that need deep spiritual cleansing before any protection is effective. How to identify if your home needs deep cleaning? Padre Pio developed unequivocal signs, signs that cannot be ignored, signs that demand immediate action. First sign, inexplicable odors. The smell of sulfur without a source. The smell of decay without cause. A sweet, sickening smell that appears and disappears. These odors are signatures, territorial markers, warnings that something doesn't belong there. Padre Pio taught how to distinguish each type. Sulfur indicates active demonic presence. Decay suggests spiritual death in the environment. Sweet sickening reveals a presence that disguises itself as good. The smell always appears in the same places and at the same times, creating an identifiable pattern. Second sign, thermal anomalies. Points in the house that are always cold, even in summer. Rooms that get hot for no reason. Drafts that appear when all the windows are closed. Evil has its own temperature, and this temperature contaminates the environment. Padre Pio discovered that negative presences lower the temperature by 5 to 10 degrees in the place where they manifest. Use a common thermometer to measure. If you find consistent differences between rooms without a physical cause, there is spiritual activity. A third sign, altered animal behavior. Dogs barking at empty corners. Cats refusing to enter certain rooms. Birds dying near the home for no apparent reason. Animals sense presences that humans can't detect. Padre Pio noted specific patterns. Dogs crying or howling at the same time. Cats making defensive movements, staring into the air. Pets fleeing or hiding during family meals. A fourth sign, malfunctioning electronics. Lights flickering on their own. Televisions turning on without command. Phones ringing with no one on the line. Negative energies interfere with electromagnetic fields. Padre Pio, even in his time without modern electronics, noticed clocks stopping, candles extinguishing without wind, metallic objects becoming magnetized near negative presences. Today, these phenomena manifest through technology. A fifth sign, widespread sleep disturbances. The entire family having nightmares, collective insomnia, a constant feeling, full night's sleep. The evil feeds during sleep. It's when we are most vulnerable. Padre Pio identified that families under spiritual attack always wake up at the same time, usually between 3 and 4 a.m., known as the witching hour. Everyone feels a presence watching, but no one can easily fall back asleep. If your home manifests 3 or more of these signs, you have a serious problem. A very serious problem. And you need specialized intervention. You need a priest who understands domestic liberation. You need someone who knows how to perform a deep spiritual cleansing. Padre Pio handled these cases personally. He traveled to the most affected homes. He spent entire days in prayer and fasting. He confronted presences that terrified entire families, and he always won. He always restored peace. He always returned the home to God. He told of a home in Rome, an 18th century mansion, a traditional Catholic respected family. But the house was possessed, literally possessed. Furniture moved on its own. Voices whispered during the night. Shadows walked the hallways. The family had tried everything. Local priests, exorcists, spiritual healers, nothing worked. The evil seemed rooted in the structure of the house. It seemed to be part of the walls, the foundations, the very history of the place. When Padre Pio arrived, the house received him with hostility. Doors slammed shut. The lights went out. A cold wind swept through all the rooms. It was as if the house itself was trying to expel him. But Padre Pio was not intimidated. He entered. He knelt in the center of the main room, and he began to pray. Not an ordinary prayer, a prayer of authority, a prayer of command, a prayer of war. For 3 days and 3 nights, he remained there, without eating, without sleeping, only praying, fighting, reclaiming that house for God. And on the 3rd day, something extraordinary happened. The house sighed. That's the only way the family could describe it. The entire house let out a deep sigh, as if it were breathing for the first time in decades. And then, silence, absolute peace, complete tranquility. Padre Pio stood up, looked at the family, smiled, and said only, "Now you can live here." The family never had problems again. The house became a haven of peace, a place of blessings, a family sanctuary. But most homes don't need such drastic intervention. Most problems can be solved with the techniques I'm teaching you, with consistent protection, with constant vigilance, with unwavering faith. Padre Pio also created a method of family self-diagnosis, a way to assess the spiritual level of your home, a thermometer of domestic sanctity. It's simple. For a week, write down everything that happens during meals, every argument, every laugh, every moment of silence, every gesture of affection, every harsh word, everything. At the end of the week, do the math. If there were more positive moments than negative ones, your home is doing well. If there was a balance, be careful. If there was a predominance of negativity, red alert. The dinner table is the heart of the home. If the heart is sick, the whole body suffers. If the heart is healthy, everything else flows naturally. Padre Pio said that families who dine in peace are indestructible. Families who look at each other with affection during meals are impenetrable. Families who give thanks together before eating are invincible. That's why holy water on the table is not just protection. It's a diagnosis. It's a thermometer. It's an alarm. It's a shield. It's everything. But there's a secret that Padre Pio reserved for the most special cases. A secret that he only shared with families who demonstrated extraordinary faith. Families who were willing to go beyond basic protection. Families who wanted to become spiritual warriors. This secret is about timing, about when to perform each ritual, about how to take advantage of moments of greater spiritual power, about how to multiply the effectiveness of each prayer. Padre Pio discovered that there is a specific time when domestic protections are most effective. A moment when the veil between the physical and the spiritual becomes thinner. A moment when your prayers have multiplied power. That moment is precisely at 6 o'clock in the evening. the beginning of twilight, the transition between day and night, the moment when shadows grow and the light diminishes, the moment when evil tests your defenses. Padre Pio called this time the hour of daily trial. This is when negative entities take advantage of the energetic shift between day and night to try to establish themselves in homes. Therefore, Padre Pio recommended that all main protections be renewed at 6 o'clock in the evening. The holy water on the table, the blessing of the house, the territorial prayer, everything at 6 o'clock in the evening, at the time when you need protection most. It can't be before, it can't be after. It needs to be precisely at this moment of spiritual transition. He taught a specific prayer for this time, a prayer that should be said by the entire family, gathered in the living room, holding hands, forming a circle of protection. Everyone standing, looking at each other, creating a human chain of faith. A prayer that will seal your home for 24 hours. A prayer that will create an invisible shield over your family. The prayer should be recited 3 times in a row, each time with more intensity. The first time, whispered. The second time, in a normal voice. The third time, declared with authority. Lord, may this twilight find our home protected. May this night find our family blessed. May this darkness find no entry into our home. May only your light dwell with us. May only your peace reign among us. May only your love unite us. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. After the prayer, each member of the family should sprinkle holy water on their own forehead and on the foreheads of the other members, starting with the youngest, always ending with the oldest. This creates a hierarchy of protection, strengthening the entire family structure. Simple? Padre Pio said God prefers simplicity to complexity, sincerity to sophistication, faith to eloquence. That's why his most powerful weapons are always simple, always direct, always accessible. A family that adopts these methods doesn't just protect itself, it transforms. It becomes a cell of goodness in the world, a point of light in the darkness, a refuge for those who need peace. Padre Pio saw this happen thousands of times. Shattered families being restored, haunted homes being purified, homes being transformed into sanctuaries. And it all started with the same simple gesture, a glass of holy water in the center of the dinner table, an act of faith, an act of protection, a declaration that this family belongs to God. Are you ready to make that declaration? Are you ready to transform your home into a sanctuary? Are you ready to protect your family with the spiritual weapons Padre Pio taught? Then start today, right now. Take a clear glass, fill it with holy water. Place it in the exact center of your dinner table and declare, this family belongs to God. This home is sacred ground. Nothing that is not of God can remain here. And observe. Over the next 3 days, observe the water. Observe your family. Observe your home. You will notice changes, subtle at first, more evident later. Transformations that begin small but grow exponentially. Padre Pio said God's protection isn't theory, it's practice. It's not a promise, it's reality. It's not a possibility, it's certainty. For those who have faith, for those who act, for those who actively protect their family, your family deserves this protection. Your home deserves this peace. You deserve this spiritual security. And it's all within your reach. It's all waiting for only your decision, your action, your faith. Evil is real. But divine protection is even more real. Evil is powerful, but God is infinitely more powerful. Evil attacks your family, but you can defend your family. With the right weapons, with the right knowledge, with the right faith. Padre Pio gave you these weapons. He gave you this knowledge. Now it's up to you to use them, to defend, to protect, to transform your home into the sanctuary God wants it to be, into the refuge your family deserves, into the sacred territory where only good can dwell. The holy water is waiting for you. Your family is waiting for you. Your home is waiting for you. And God is waiting for you. To bless, to protect, to transform, to make the impossible become reality in your life. Start today. The protection of your family cannot wait until tomorrow.